Good morning, everybody. And good morning to all of you. I really like to start my workshops with a sort of a prayer meditation focus, and I hope that's okay with you. All of these selections are from my book, Holy Language, and it's not that I'm promoting my book, not at all, but I've grown accustomed to the way I talk to God. So that's what we're going to do. And I think it's in keeping with the way I teach, because I think that we're at a time that's changing our relationship with the cosmos, and a new dialogue is being born. Some thoughts, Lord, are small, and others are cosmic size. I had a cosmic epiphany today that I require the energy, that breath, the breath of all living creatures to sustain me. Suddenly, instantly, I felt gratitude and vulnerability colliding within me. From inside this cosmic lens, I experienced the whole fabric of life as a living, breathing organism moving through me and with me. The sensation lasted for just a microsecond, but it felt as if the observational view through which I had always looked at everything suddenly shattered. I was no longer an observer of life, but a particle participating in the energetics of creation. I will admit to you, Lord, that I wanted to dwell on that perception a while longer. I felt as if I was experiencing the breathing apparatus of creation itself, instead of just looking as an outsider at the flowers in my garden once they had bloomed. My mind cannot comprehend this experience. Some experiences, I'm learning, Lord, belong only to the soul. I believe you graced me today with allowing me for a microsecond to melt into the truth that all life breathes together. Life would be so less fearful if people could only touch the power of that one truth for a microsecond. Amen. No, you don't clap at a prayer. You just let it go in. Sometimes I don't know how to enter all that I want to teach these days. But I am going to start with saying everything that I want to teach is about how to bring you into the phenomenon of what I believe is happening today. If anyone had ever said to me, honestly, wait a minute, I had 4 chairs and now I have none. Wait. Everything makes me laugh. That's a good thing. Okay. David says I can't teach without a pen in my hand, and you know what? I realize it's true. Okay. So, what an odd stool. If anyone had ever said to me that I would spend the rest of my life, that there would come a time when I would spend my life teaching about prayer, spirituality, and the power of the soul, honest to God, I would have said they were nuts. I would have said they were nuts. And now I can't think of anything more important that I could tell you. There's nothing more important that I could give to you as the legacy of my life lived than what I have come to believe is true about what is happening in the world and what is happening to you, within you and around you, and what I believe is taking place in the world today. And how important it is for you to understand the significance of everything that's happening in your life, in you biologically, in you intuitively, in you spiritually, and everything that is happening around us. That the moment we are living that there's a reason you're alive now, and you can't miss that reason. You can't misinterpret that reason. That the idea that there's such a thing as retirement is nonsense. That what you do is you retire from your old ways. You retire from thinking that age renders you useless, that money renders you helpless, the lack of it, that conventional occupation is the way to be empowered, but that the way to be empowered rises from the cleverness of what you can perceive rather than see. That you come to the realization of what ordinary minds think is powerless, you come to understand is the most powerful tools you have. That power lies in your capacity to choose one word carefully and when to use that one word, or when not to say a word. That in fact, your capacity to see through a myth or an illusion, to know when to use your power and when not to use your power, to know what power really is, to know how to handle yourself in such a way that you are so empowered that you can withstand an illusion coming towards you and not, as they say in Taoism, get caught in a spectacle dancing in front of you, but allow that spectacle to move on. Whether that spectacle is a fear, and someone says, oh my God, the market is collapsing, you have to invest your money in this, you have to, that some fear that is being put out. If you don't do this, then this is going to happen. That you're able to discern clearly that that is the archetype of the hysteric coming toward you. And that you can clearly put around your boundary, declare, literally detach your consciousness and become in that moment impersonal. Impersonal. And that you know that impersonal doesn't mean what an ordinary mind would think, which is, I don't care. Impersonal is that state of empowerment that says, I am detaching from this so that I can see clearly. Do you want my pen? No, I'm not being funny. Have you been sitting there saying, never mind what she's saying, I want that pen. I want that marker. And I want you to just focus on that right now. I want you to deeply focus on that because that's what impersonal feels like. I want you to have a marker in you, an imprint, so that you know that's what the sensation of impersonal feels like. It feels like that. Nothing. It's not that you don't care. There's no care about it at all. It's just nothing. It's not dismissing. It is that this has absolutely no authority over you. I can throw it this way, I can throw it that way. You can never see it again and it wouldn't matter to you, would it? If I decided to use green in the next hour or blue, it would not matter to you at all. It has no power over you. You will never think of it again. If I didn't even mention it, you would never have noticed it. And yet it is an object, just like a Tiffany diamond, just like your house, as Buddha would say. Excuse me. It's in Buddha language, what is the difference? One object is an object, is an object, is an object. What is the difference? From Buddha perspective, what is the difference? Is size the difference? This is what Buddha means by illusion. One object is yet an object, is an object, is an object. The difference, which is something we'll talk about, the difference is the power you give to something, that's all. You've decided one thing has power and one thing doesn't. It's all perception. This is the moment, this is the era, this is the time in which we are realizing, wait a minute, I'm the one that's giving this thing authority over me. It has no authority over me unless I give it authority over me. Now that's power. That's power. And when we start at the first floor of your house, on the first floor of your house, and you're looking out the window, the first floor of your world is stuff. It's stuff. Here, look, that's the first floor. That is the first floor, right there. This is a perfect room for this workshop. Because that's actually the view of the first floor. It's small, it's limited. And from the first floor of your house, this is about as much as you see, which gives you the illusion that you are the center of the universe, that your world is across the street, and it's not very big, and that you are very important in that world. And that and you can develop the idea that stuff is very significant in that world. So your first level of power, your first concept of what power is going to be tactile. Stuff, I got to touch it.
Is that also like with substances?
Yeah, is that also substances? I'm going to repeat the question. I am going to repeat your questions because this is being recorded and we have an audience and they won't hear you, so I will always do that. Yes. But the big point that I am trying to make right now, and then I'll put it in micro points, is that among the many, many profound changes that are occurring at this time is that we, the people of our time, have become obsessed with power, the study of our power, becoming empowered, the power of our words, the power of words said to us, the power that experiences had on us in childhood, the power of our wounds, the power of everything. We are on power quests. Everything is about getting back our powers. If you ever had your power, you wouldn't be searching for it. If you were ever truly empowered, there'd be no such thing as going looking for it. But the fact that power is forefront in every one of your lives, a major journey for every single one of you, not one of you is not on this journey. Every one of you is. I don't even have to ask, because that is the nature of the journey at this time. So you could call it a spiritual journey, you could call it a conscious, you could call it health. You cannot recover your health unless you're on a spiritual journey, unless you're on the journey of power. You can't be in a healthy relationship unless you understand power. You can't function at a job, you can't do anything unless you understand power. It's just the way it is. Now, this is such a big deal, so I have to back up and introduce where did this come from? When did this become such a big deal? And I have to keep drinking water here. What is that? I mean, do you know, for the first time ever in a hotel room, I actually woke up in the night and I had to drink water. What is that here? Is it that dry? Is it really that dry? I never ever had that ever. Look, I have you all now reaching for your water. But I have never ever experienced that ever. Okay, so I want to take you back because a characteristic of my style is the larger perspective. And I think the larger perspective is delicious because you need to appreciate the time in which you're living, and that you have to know that you're part of an evolutionary drama that includes everybody and everything. I cannot encourage you enough to be able to develop that lens that allows you to stand still, open your eyes, and include in your life journey everybody else and all the events taking place. And to wire yourself in so that you, remember this? This is you at the basic level, just your basic tribal, I don't know if I'm going to make this, tribal me level. But eventually, this is all you at the personal. This is going to be a trick. But eventually, as you get up the stairs, the floors of you, you make the transition into the impersonal level of your own life. You become impersonal about you. Now your soul is impersonal. Now your spirit is personal, spirit, but your soul is impersonal. That's a defining character. That's a defining difference between your spirit and your soul. Here's another one. Your spirit, you will use the word energy to identify your spirit. But when we get to the soul, we will use the word grace. Now, the spirit and the soul has its own vocabulary. And they each have their range of power and authority. Now, Teresa of Avila, henceforth known as Teresa, one of her great teachings, one of her delicious great teachings, you all know who Teresa is, right? Anybody not? Oh. Ooh. Let me introduce you. Very quickly. She was a 16th century Carmelite nun. And I'm madly in love with her. My book, Entering the Castle, is about her genius. She wrote a book called The Interior Castle. She was a mystic, a saint. She was so much more. I happen to be very fond of her. Saints are real, and sometimes very close to us. Her teachings changed my life personally, deeply, profoundly, rerouted my life directly. I wouldn't be here at all had I not encountered the teachings of Teresa. I came to believe, and everything I'm teaching you is the result of this belief, that as a medical intuitive, eventually I went from, helping Norm. Someone asked me today if Norm was my husband. No. No. But he's as close to a soulmate as I will ever get. Meaning that if it wasn't for Norm, the calling of my soul is not something I would have followed. I think God sends us certain people who we require to animate, to help us activate something we didn't know we had inside of us. And while my mind, my skills, I chose to educate myself as a writer and a historian and then a theologian, because that's where I saw my skill. And I had a passion to become something I have no talent for, right? A fiction author. But my genius, my soul, was an intuitive, healer, medical intuitive. Something I never heard of. You have to appreciate, when you've never heard of something, what that does, it means that you start responding to your life instead of projecting your life. I never anticipated a thing. I never thought, oh, with this, you know what? I could write books and I could... If you don't even know what you are or what it is you're doing, you don't create... Someone said to me, I've been asked so many times, did you know this would make you well known? Did you know? If you don't even know what you're doing, how can you turn around and anticipate you're going to write books or teach about it when you don't even know what you're doing? Nothing is a more absurd question. Nothing. When I studied theology, I studied mysticism. I studied the great mystics. I studied how it is that people are called. What was that? What did they hear? What did they hear? Where were they going? What was that? How come when people would hear what were they listening to? And how come some people went mad? And others became great healers and were able to heal people and become vessels through which light flowed, and other people were healed because of them, or they could bilocate. Padre Pio and Teresa, she would become so filled with light, something I'll explain later, so filled with light that her body became more light than matter, and so she levitated, which explains how Jesus walked on water. It explains how gurus levitate. It is the law of science. It's mystical science. But it's science because God is law. It is the same thing that happens in what you call a miracle. Where's this? I put it up here. I'll get to it. It's what's happening in you is vertical consciousness, timelessness. That is the phenomenon that's happening in you. And I came to that through healing. And we're going to go through that today and tomorrow, where Kairos, which is hour by hour time, is shifting into vertical time, which is timeless, thought into form. And this is like this arc. And that is exactly what's happening to us. To put it in technical terms, it's what's happening to you. That is what's happening. This is thought into form just like that. You're now wired for this. That's the intuitive shift that happened in the nuclear age. This is the wiring. It's happening. This is what's happening to the whole human species. This is light consciousness. This is technical consciousness. This is your internet and your internet. And every one of your experiences can be explained by I'll be right there, darling, by accommodating you, getting you to perceive light before matter, seeing through illusions versus the density, seeing truth, which is light, versus the density of illusion. What I realized with as a medical intuitive was that in the beginning, I was simply reading you to figure out what's the matter with you. And you realize in theology, we would talk about the soul going way, way back as a Catholic. Nobody told me about the chakras. Nobody described it. No, that is not part of Catholicism, okay? So now I get wired and I'm doing readings and I'm thinking, what is this? And here's perception. Perception is different. You have to, I was using the language of the five senses, which is completely inappropriate. We need to have an energetic language. Part of the reason we go into states of madness, not insanity, madness, is because we lack the language to describe our contemporary mystical experiences. Someone asked me at breakfast, tell me your name again. Yeah. Kate. Kate asked me at breakfast if I thought I was ever, losing it growing up. Because I told her that the others, I said, I'm too old now to keep secrets. I never, ever thought I was losing it. I thought you were. I thought you were. I was always so comfortable in between worlds. It was the most natural place in the world for me. The unnatural place was here. The unnatural place. I sought a spiritual director to help me live in this world, not to help me cope with that one. I tried to marry 4 times to get me into this world, until I realized that's never going to happen. And then I figured, oh, what the hell, just accept who I am. I couldn't make myself normalize in this world to ground myself here. And then I figured, oh, screw it. And then I said to I've never been happier than the day I accepted that and I've been in a happy bubble ever since. Okay, so, but when the language is missing, so we have to kind of get this language straight, and we need to talk about that. Put that down, language. So I don't forget. Now, when I started to do readings, and this may be a track for you, perception is different than sight. So be advised that perception operates within your whole field, not your eyes. Your whole field. You are so accustomed to living forward, right in front. You are so accustomed to thinking your world is just in front of you. But it's all around. It's behind you. It's above you. You are living in a hologram. Now, don't fall. You are living in a hologram. You've got to step into, like this picture here, you're living in an active hologram now. And you can't see it, and you're going to forget it again and again and again. So this is one of the jewels in your pocket now. You have to imprint that. You have to imprint. You are now residing, both of you, in a hologram, which means you're getting data from behind you, here, and we have to talk about what is this. This is your soul is an active hologram. Now, if it will help you, think of the hologram as draw what the image was when you learned latitude and longitude. Do you remember that? Draw that and put yourself in the center of the globe so that the lines of latitude and longitude become animated for you as a communication system, so that you have something visual here. and that you know you are in a 24/7 animated communication system. This is high soul technology now. We need a language. We need a language, and this is going to have to do till the higher thing comes along. But you need to image that you are constantly picking this up. Now, come down here. In your first floor, when you look out the window on an ordinary day, you will not see your hologram. Do you get that? You cannot see your hologram. You can only perceive it and sense it. If you go over to your neighbors and sit down and have coffee with them in their first floor and say, I'm having a bad hologram day. My soul hologram. I'm on soul overload, which, by the way, and incidentally, is a real condition. Don't expect that they will say, I know what you're talking about. Do you understand me? Put down soul companion. We'll get to that. Don't let me forget these things. They occur to me as I talk. You cannot be that foolish, and you cannot be that needy. You cannot be that needy. You need a spine made of titanium to endure the journey. Neediness is not allowed. You have needs, but you cannot be needy. There is a difference. Okay, so much. I can't even write so much. Now, back, right, okay. Beginning. So, when, in my early days as a medical intuitive, I was only interested in what was wrong with you physically. But through that, I learned this familiar drawing. All right, I can do it in miniature. That you've all seen, but I have to, you're going to, all right, but it will work for now. Now I have an excuse for my poor drawings. Okay. All right. What I didn't know in the beginning was how bloody effective this was going to be. Because what I was really learning to chart, early on, what I was charting was, at first, I thought it was stress. That was the word I was using. Because that was the popular word in, my God, when I started the 1980s. Right? That was the word. Oh my, where are you losing power? Where are you losing stress? So I developed the human energy system, based on stress. Okay. But every part of me thought, this is so inadequate. We're not that simple as, oh, I have stress here, and I'm losing my power, and this person's losing stress in the lower back of their body because of financial issues, which are true, by the way, but it can't be that simple. It can't be that simple. Okay, come over here. That's this house right here. One of the crisis points that is now being cracked through is the way we think in terms of polarity. Our model of consciousness, that for every one problem, there is one solution. That you are either right or wrong. That for every illness, there is one cause. That you are, if you're good, bad things don't happen. There is male and there is female and nothing in between. There is left and right. There's Republican and Democrat. There is the East and there is the West. And there is nothing in between. Polarism and polarity is a model of consciousness that is now disintegrating. It is disintegrating even as we sit here. The boundaries of sexuality are melting. The boundaries of what are feminine and masculine are melting. The boundaries of what are right and wrong are melting. One of the reasons I stopped doing readings is because I came to realize that there's no such thing as one reason for why anything happens. And to begin to explain, I was going from the flat world into the world of hologram consciousness. And I couldn't convey that anymore. That either I got you into the hologram, that was what I had to do. We were no longer in a world of problems, where one problem has one solution. We have transitioned into the world of predicaments. Predicaments don't have solutions. They take us into transformation. They are not resolved by a solution. Melting glaciers are not a problem. They're a predicament that demand we change. They will not change. They are taking us with them. The environmental crisis is not a problem. It is a predicament that demands we change. We do not write a treaty and say to the glacier, sign this. It is our arrogance that's on the line. We do not say to nuclear weapons, to Fukushima, to all of this and the lies they tell us that it's under control, which it is not. There's only so many human beings you can threaten by saying, don't you let the truth of this out. That it is nuking the water waves, nuking the fish, nuking what you eat, all the plastic in the ocean. Either we transition with this global predicament we're in, because who pollutes their own home? We have no place to go. So either we change or we perish. And we cannot continue to be so naive, so blind, so arrogant as to think we have time to put this off. It's not our responsibility. If we don't watch the news, it won't happen to us. No! If you're alive now, you are responsible. That's the only sentence that better sink in. If you are alive now, you are responsible. Because your consciousness is participating. And that is the high soul truth. That what is in one is in the whole. That we are all active ingredients in everything. And this is the new theology. It's organic. God has gone organic. And that is the truth. That's the new theology. God has gone organic. Move over Whole Foods. The new theology is organic. It's bio-spiritual. Organic, ecological, That's the new theology. And we have to live this with every powerful choice we make. And I promise you that if you truly go into yourself, you will discover that every suffering inside of you is coming from the whole speaking to you personally. You no longer suffer alone. And if you look at yourself and you say, what's wrong with me? You have to say now, what's wrong with me and us? Or you'll never get to the root of your crisis. Ever. And if you treat yourself as a victim, you'll never heal. Ever. No more. And there is no past. You have to rise out of your own ashes. One of the things I realized as I was doing my medical intuition is that this business of healing was getting boring. I'm thinking, I got into woundology and I thought, Jesus, these people use wounds like street currency. And the fear of not wanting to heal blew me out of the water. Why would someone not want to heal? How could someone not want to heal? I mean, how naive was I thinking everybody wants to be healed, and then, ding, the light goes on. It wasn't about healing, it was about power. It was totally about power. Now we're moving up the ladder here. It was about power. And what is it about power that made the journey of becoming whole so incredibly frightening? What was it? Because hit the pause button here. Hit it. Simultaneously, there's all these power gigs surfacing. Walking on fire and learning to say, don't you cross my boundary. And yada, yada, yada. All this silliness that was surfacing all over the place. So this quest for empowerment was books on being powerful, how to be powerful, how to say your needs, how to while the real journey of power, people were running away from like scampered rabbits. How to be empowered in the capacity to go deep in yourself and confront truth, to plow through illusions, to listen to your inner instruction, to actually become aligned and congruent. Now, doing the readings, I hit this place where I began to realize that the incredible number of people who were depressed and anxiety, unbelievable. And I'm thinking, this is so incredible, really. Here we are with all this health stuff. Get healthy, 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 healthy. And we're not. We're getting sicker, 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 sicker. We're tumbling more into the unconscious and the darkness of conscious just when we have more tools to get conscious. What is that about? How could that be happening? How could we have this increased thing and going darker into consciousness while having all these ways to get lighter into consciousness? Are we putting the brakes on? But in fact, in the world of mysticism, you don't go into the soul unescorted. What was happening was we'd opened up the world of behind our eye, and we had plunged into the depths. At the same time, we removed holy language. The very tools we needed to plunge into the soul, so we went into our wombs. Without the soul, without prayer, without reflection, so that every pain that came up we saw as a threat instead of an arrow that said, go this way. So instead of going through the pain and saying, I've been expecting you, come sit with me. Come sit with me. Come, let's break through this. We had to go find someone to blame. It became a search and destroy mission. And if it got too bad, we went for medication. We medicated ourselves. So instead of using the tools of the mystic, and that's when I saw, oh my God, everybody's in a spiritual crisis, not a psychological one. A spiritual. And they didn't even recognize they were banging on the doors of the soul because they didn't have the language for it. Ergo my book, The Power of Holy Language. We'd tossed out that language, so we couldn't get in there anymore. So people were in spiritual crises, and all the while the tools of your soul were trying desperately to wake up. But people were going this high, but not getting in. Not actually getting to that level of vertical consciousness, because without the tools, without recognizing that you're going through a mystical transition, a mystical transformation, you're going to go the other way, and you're going to hover in depression. You're going to hover in feeling you're isolated, but that guidance system is going to keep on. You're going to keep feeling more and more remote, and your sensitivities are going to increase. Now, could any of you relate to that? Yes, right. And your life keeps transitioning, and you will continue to feel more remote about your external world, while your internal world keeps rupturing deeper and deeper and deeper, and you will continue to feel, I have to find something's happening. Something's happening. And occasionally, in the quieter, more peaceful moments, your soul surfaces and you get the sense of a soul world view of yourself in something. And maybe you'll have what Teresa calls a profound moment of quietude, where something rich and sweet and filled with grace takes you over. When God gets into the walls of your soul for a moment, a second, a microsecond, and you think, I'm okay, I'm really okay. But then what happens is, when you come back down here, because your five senses, you're not yet strong enough to sustain the altitude. And what you give into is this idea that God still has to be practical. You still have to convert it to some kind of practical, occupational, something or other in the real world. And so you cave into some kind of frightening need for some kind of physical groundedness of the divine. Because you don't yet trust how this remarkable power that's trying to come up in you and say, look, I don't play by those rules. You got to trust me. I have outrageous rules. I have mystical rules. I play by when you need me, I'm there rules. I am vertical. I'm not this way. So stop looking ahead. I am right here, right now, as you need me. I am like Johnny on the spot. You got to trust. I am a hologram in motion. I am right here. I am light in motion. I do not give you tomorrow's sunrise to this morning. You got to trust me. I am here, but I will be there. I've never failed. I've always risen in the morning, haven't I? You got to trust me. I'm Johnny on the spot. I have to tell you, heaven never fails. Never. Not once. Never. You have to stop expecting it to look like that world. It's hidden in that world. And this is where your transition comes This is where your journey is, from this world to this world, and it includes all of those. And that's what's happening to you.